When you think of a corporation, what comes to mind? Apple? Google? Giant glass towers and stock tickers? It all feels very modern, right? A product of the last few hundred years. But what if I told you the DNA of these modern giants was coded thousands of years ago? What if the core ideas of a company being its own legal person, or outliving its founders, didn't start in the Industrial Revolution, but in the dusty markets of ancient Babylon, the grand construction projects of the Roman Republic, and the bustling workshops of ancient India? Today on G Fun Facts Online, we're unearthing the true origins of business to find the world's very first corporations. Our journey begins in the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, over 4,000 years ago. The Sumerians weren't just inventing writing, they were inventing business. Living on a fertile plain, they needed to trade for essentials like stone, metal, and wood. This need for long-distance trade sparked incredible commercial innovation. The most basic tool was the partnership. We've found countless clay tablets that are actually legally binding partnership agreements, meticulously detailing who put in what, how profits would be split, and even witnessed by officials. But they went even further. Consider the House of Egibi in Babylon. This was a family-run banking and money-lending firm that operated for generations. It survived the rise and fall of empires. The business of Egibi was distinct from the family itself. Its identity and operations continued, even as the family members running it changed over the decades. This is a huge step towards the idea of a business having a life of its own. Then you have the old Assyrian merchants around the 19th century BCE. These were basically family-based multinational enterprises. A family firm in the city of Ashur would run a network of trading posts hundreds of miles away in Anatolia. We know from their letters on clay tablets that they had a home office, branch offices, complex accounting, and long-term strategies for managing risk. They were trading textiles and tin for silver and gold. While they didn't have legal personhood like a modern LLC, they clearly separated their business assets from their personal ones. The family firm was the entity. These ancient Mesopotamians created the first blueprints for large-scale, organized business. Now let's jump forward to ancient Rome. The Romans, with their genius for law and organization, took these concepts to a whole new level. While the elite looked down on trade, the practical needs of running a massive empire created a space for some of the most recognizable ancestors of the modern corporation. First, let's talk about the big players, the societas publicanorum, or societies of publicans. These were private companies, essentially, that bid on massive government contracts. They supplied the legions, built roads and aqueducts, and most famously, collected taxes. The Roman state would auction off the right to collect taxes in an entire province. A societas publicanorum would pay a huge lump sum up front, and any taxes they collected above that amount was their profit. This system made them incredibly powerful and wealthy, but also gave them a pretty bad reputation for greed. From a business perspective, though, they were revolutionary. They were large-scale ventures that pooled capital from many investors, called socii. They had elected managers, a central office in Rome, and a whole staff. And here's the crucial part. Roman law gave them special privileges. Unlike a normal partnership that would end if a partner died, these societies could keep going. That's the seed of perpetual succession. Even more, it seems the investor's liability was often limited to their initial investment. This is a primitive form of limited liability, a game-changing idea that encourages people to invest without risking their entire personal fortune. Now, on a smaller scale, Roman society was filled with thousands of associations called collegia. These were guilds for bakers, builders, and ship owners, but also religious societies and even burial clubs to make sure members got a proper funeral. The key innovation here is that the Roman state recognized an authorized collegium as a corpus, a body. This meant it was a legal entity, a person in the eyes of the law. It could own property, hold a treasury, make contracts, and sue, or be sued as a single entity, separate from its members. The very word corporation comes from this Latin root, corpus. These collegia had their own bylaws and elected officers. Just like a modern organization, they established the principle of legal personhood that is absolutely fundamental to every business today. At the same time, half a world away, another great civilization was creating its own corporate structures. In ancient India, flourishing during the Mauryan Empire around 300 BCE, we find powerful, autonomous guilds known as sreni. These were far more than just trade unions. A sreni for carpenters, weavers, or jewelers was a multifaceted institution. They organized production, controlled quality, and set prices. But what's truly remarkable is their legal autonomy. Ancient Indian legal texts, like the famous Arthashastra, explicitly state that the king must respect the laws and customs of the sreni. They had their own internal legal code, the Sreni Dharma, that was recognized by the state. Their governance was also incredibly advanced. Each guild was led by a chief, often elected by the members, who could even be impeached for misconduct. This shows a high degree of internal democracy and accountability. But perhaps the most stunning corporate-like function of the sreni was their role as banks. They became incredibly wealthy and acted as trusted financial institutions. We have stone inscriptions that serve as concrete proof. One inscription from the 2nd century AD records a permanent endowment of silver coins given to 2 different guilds. The instructions were that the interest from these deposits was to be used to feed the poor. This shows the sreni were managing long-term investments and guaranteeing a return, just like a modern bank or trust. With their distinct legal identity, sophisticated governance, and advanced financial functions, the sreni of ancient India represent an amazing, parallel chapter in the history of the corporation. So what's the connection from these ancient roots to the modern giants? The thread is unmistakable. After the fall of Rome, these ideas re-emerged in medieval Europe's guilds, which were direct descendants of the Roman collegia. The real turning point came in the Age of Exploration, around the 1600s. The massive cost and risk of sending ships to Asia and the Americas required a new way of doing business. This led to the first great chartered companies, like the British and Dutch East India Companies. These new joint stock companies were a perfect fusion of ancient ideas. They took the concept of pooling capital from many investors, like the Roman tax farming societies, and combined it with the legal personhood and perpetual existence pioneered by the Roman collegia and Indian sreni. And they firmly established the one final, crucial piece: limited liability for all shareholders. The idea that a company is a legal person, separate from its owners, comes directly from the Roman concept of the corpus. The idea that a company can outlive its founders goes back to the family firms of Mesopotamia and the publican societies of Rome. The corporation isn't a modern invention. It's an ancient one, slowly built and refined over thousands of years. The titans of our global economy today stand on a foundation laid by Sumerian merchants, Roman tax collectors, and Indian artisans, all testament to the enduring human drive to build, trade, and achieve together.